What's going on, everybody? I'm Lauren Rosen, joined by Mr. Kyle O'Quinn, the one and only Kyle. Thanks for doing this with us.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
So obviously, we are getting ready to vote in a big general election this year. If you don't mind, can you just tell us a little bit why voting is important to you?
I think voting is important to me simply because it gives everybody a voice on what they stand on. It can be different. Every family is different. Every person is different of age, but I think it gives you a voice. And, I think that voting is just something that can even the playing field if, all decisions goes the right way.
I assume that you've voted before. What are some of your experiences voting? How long have you been doing it?
When I first was able to vote, I didn't see the importance of it. You were just so happy to get your license, and they actually, do you want to also fill out the paperwork to get registered to vote? You're like, no, I just want my license and send me home so I could start driving. But I didn't take advantage of it the first time I could. But after that, I saw the importance that my parents had. They made sure they cast their vote. Then you start seeing historic movies about how African Americans, fought for the right to vote for many, many years. So then you start to kind of okay, well, let me just do what they fought for so long to get done, and let me take advantage of my opportunity. And I started thinking about it from that perspective, and I think that that's ultimately what led me to be a consistent voter.
That's huge, and I'm sure that there are people this year that are thinking along the same lines that you might have the first time you had an opportunity to vote. What's your message to people that are sort of undecided about whether or not their voice in this election matters?
I think that, my message to the young college kid who may have an opinion and has the energy and the do-with-all to go out there and protest, peaceful protests and things like that. I think that my message to them would be, yes, it's good to be heard, and yes, you're doing a great job, but if you really want your voice to be heard, vote. Because even though it seems like it's a little thing, it's a big thing when you add those little things up. So take advantage of the opportunity that we have to vote and get it done. They make it super easy with the mail-in ballots, and you can do it so many different ways now. They really want our voice to be heard, because I think our country's in a time where they want to see what the people want to see. They want to hear what the people have to say. So I think voting is one of the things we could put a stamp on.
Does being a father change the way that you feel responsible for being active as a voter and in your communities? Now that you're setting an example for these two little ones, what does that change for you?
It changes for me because I always believed everything starts in the household. I think racism is something that's taught, so I think that, my parents didn't teach me that. And I probably said the same exact spill in another interview. My parents, they always taught me judge people by their heart. And ultimately, I think that's what's made me successful as far as I've been, because you don't see color, and I think people that gravitate towards me that not African-American can understand and feel the fact that I don't see color. And I went to an HBCU where there was no other color but African-Americans, but you judge people by their heart and their knowledge and, and the respect you have for, that person. My dad was a little older, so he dealt with some, racism and, prejudice towards him firsthand. And he didn't teach me that. So I felt like if he didn't teach me that, there must be a bigger thing out there than, what the world is going through. So yes, I do feel, to answer your question, yes, I do feel a responsibility to be active, but I think that my biggest responsibility for them is to have the knowledge, because if they ever ask me a question, I want to be the first one to answer it.
Shifting gears a little bit, we spoke with Matisse on Friday. You guys as a team, throughout your time in the bubble and even before you guys headed down there, have been very vocal about the change you're hoping to see in the world. How proud are you of the statement that you guys have made as a group together?
I'm very proud of it, because our statement was not made by one player. It wasn't made by a coach. It wasn't made by, someone who was affected differently than somebody else. Collectively, we came up with that. And when I say collectively, you got people that are African-American that grew up low income, middle class, then you have the guys like Matisse, who probably didn't see as much as, a guy like myself would see. Then you have a guy like, Ferk, who came to America just to make some money and have an opportunity for his family. So I think it's a wide range of people, visions and beliefs, and so that whole statement came from all of that, and I think that we all confidently put it out there and said that we all ride with it.
And then looking even beyond the 76ers, obviously the guys that are still in the bubble right now and some of the players that went home last week made an even louder statement when still competing down there. What does it mean to you right now to be an NBA player, and how proud are you of your colleagues for what you guys have been able to do?
I mean, this is a great time to be in the NBA, and the NBA is doing a great job of supporting everything, as long as with the individual organizations, but the NBA as a whole is doing a great job supporting guys, doing what they believe, and very proud of my colleagues just taking that stand. The Milwaukee Bucks are the ones that really took the stand, and everybody followed up like a brotherhood should, to just not play. I've always said basketball is a privilege. Now I'm starting to think basketball is a privilege on both sides. It's a privilege to watch too, so I've always treated the game like a privilege. I always respected it, and the game has respected me, my family, and many of my friends. But, for the spectators, it's a privilege for them to watch. So if you don't want to hear us, you can't really see us, in the comfort of your home. So that was a big stand. I liked it. I loved it. Sucked that we weren't there to be a part of it, because I would love to have been a part of those conversations. But at the end of the day, as a whole, the NBA taking that stand was very, very powerful.
You talk about the spectators that want to participate or are even forced to participate in some of the stuff that's been going on lately. When you look at your young fans, you guys have such a big audience. There are so many young men and women out there that want to be just like you guys. What do you hope that they're learning from all this change?
I hope they're learning the truth. I hope they're learning, what can ultimately change their heart to what the world should be. It's tough. Like I said, it's tough because, these kids have to live their regular life. The young Kyle O'Quinn is still living the young Kyle O'Quinn life, in a public school system, just trying to make the best out of the situation. A kid that goes to a school in Lower Merion is privileged enough to go to a school in Lower Merion. So it's tough, but I would honestly say, and I was thinking about this, with all the outlets of social media and information and virtual learning, and, I think kids are smarter than we were when we were younger, because they have their hands on with so much stuff, just from the technology, and they can wire stuff and Bluetooth headphones and play games versus kids in California. With all these things going on, I just hope that, they get the right message, whether it's through social media or interviews like this, and hopefully they're listening. Honestly, you just hope the best for them. But mostly I put the onus on the parents, because the parents are really the foundation to the household. And I'll never, ever step away from that. So I always point back to the parents.
And the parents are doing a huge service when they do educate their children. Something that Matisse talked to us about, his dad is someone that's educated him quite a bit, but he also talked about how Tobias and your teammates have been educating each other. How important is it for you to be educated by your peers, to listen to each other's perspectives? What do you think about his statement that it's important to educate each other?
It's very important, because, even in some of our discussions, I learned some things that I didn't know, and I will be considered an African-American that should know exactly what my people are going through, and so it's just like you have a point to make. You have to be willing to sit there and listen to a point that somebody else has to make. And that's just the respect of a conversation this deep. And I think that the education coming from each other is a little more receptive, because they are our peers. We talk the same way, same schedule. You know what I mean? It's not forced upon us. It's probably organic as it comes. So I think that that's the best learning, but for all adults, you have, during a time like this, I'm not telling nobody you have to read a book, you have to do this, you have to do that, but you kind of have to open your heart and let your mind be a sponge to take in some of the information that's going on. You can't be blinded right now. And for years to come, you got to continue to push the needle. And that's really, really, really with the knowledge that you have.
I know there are a lot of people that do look up to you and that really value what you have to say. What are some of your favorite resources when it comes to educating yourself, whether it's books, movies, social media accounts, people in your life? How do you personally go about getting educated?
I just love listening to older people talk, because they have so much in them, some things that they probably don't even want to speak about, because it brings back tough thoughts and tough times. So I like to use the older people, some of the people in our organization, like Alan Lumpkin, who is a little older. He's been around for a while, straightforward dude. He's a great person. So why not pick his brain for a little bit? That's better than a Netflix series. My dad was old, so to hear him talk about some of the things that he sees so easy for me that was hard for him. But right now, you know, between the documentaries and a lot of podcasts, a lot of people's hot topics, the iron is hot. So a lot of conversations. So you just got to really listen to something that you can get with, that you can, you know, stand the sound of, because sometimes you don't want to hear the barking. You just want to hear education. You just want to hear this, that, and the third. But you hear an African-American name, Google it. Just like we would Google somebody's stats after they said, hey, such Eric Bledsoe had a great game last night. Google something, you know, and just continue to educate yourself. But my main source right now, honestly, is getting on the phone. Nobody's doing anything really unless you got a real job, an essential worker. Get on the phone, talk to some older people that may have some stories that can impact your life, you know, with them just talking.
That's really good advice. And like you said, the iron is hot right now. So to sort of tie this whole conversation together, when November rolls around, or obviously now it's important that people are registering to vote and making a plan as to how they're going to vote, whether that's by mail-in ballot or in person, or if they're going to volunteer. While the iron is hot, like it is right now, what's your message to the folks that are watching this in terms of how much change they can actually make if we just like bring this thing home when it comes to the election?
I would simply say the iron is hot, and let's take advantage of our opportunity. You know, you don't want to let this opportunity slip you past, and then you educate yourself later and you feel like you missed out on something that was really impactful to the world. This is bigger than, you know, and you know, some people will be like, no, but this is bigger than black and white right now. This is all for all humanity, you know, and this is for everybody, you know, living a good, loving life moving forward. There's a right way and a wrong way. And for things to go the right way, I think that we all need to take the responsibility, you know, personally, each house at a time, and do what we need to do as citizens of the United States. And I think that why not be a part of history? Because it's going to change. It's going to change slowly but surely. But why not be a part of history and say 2020, I was a part of a big change in this world?
Well, Kyle, you've obviously been a big part of the change that's happening in the world. Thank you for inspiring me to do better and to learn more all season. And thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Yes, ma'am.